That's what changed my mentality. You got to take this gift and you have to use it to make people's lives better. Winning individually is not as fun as winning as a team. We got to all learn failure, losses, quitting. Those are all learning opportunities and fuel for us to move forward. It's hard to not have an inspiration in your life for your own self if you don't think longer term. Here's how you activate that plan and continue even when roadblocks come. It is scary to think about the future. It's tough. It's hard. I get it. But if you don't, who will? Spend more time getting to know yourself. You are the leader of your life and you can make your destiny happen. Transform your leadership. Get to know yourself. Take control. Recognize you're the leader. You are the chief. You are the boss of your life. Don't leave it in the hands of someone else.
Turn this up. Turn this up.
Your professional development is one of the keys to your career success. When you combine your desire to grow with actionable steps, your journey to success becomes an incredible reality.
Hi, I'm Paul Ferranbi, aka IncrediPaul, and welcome to IncrediPaul Leadership, where we talk to incredible people doing incredible things to become the most incredible versions of ourselves. First off, I want to thank you for listening, but I also want you to know that you could also watch this episode on YouTube. Regardless if you're listening or watching the show, thank you so much for your support. Today, I have the honor of having Donzel Leggett on the show. He has over 3 decades of experience leading global teams at Fortune 200 companies, and he is currently the principal at Destiny Development Delta LLC, where he specializes in executive leadership development. He is known for his strategic vision and mentorship, and he founded the Anti-Racism Commitment Coalition and has served on influential boards, including the International Youth Foundation. He is also the author, like if that wasn't enough, he's also the author of the book, Make Your Destiny Happen, which I'm sure we'll get into. Without just a brief introduction to you, Donzel, how about you introduce yourself the way you would do it?
Yeah, well, first of all, IncrediPaul, thank you for having me on this wonderful platform. It's an honor to be here and to speak with you. Just realized that you and I have met before. We worked together years ago, which is pretty awesome. When I saw your face, I thought, this guy looks very familiar, but I don't know. But clearly, I had a good memory for faces and for great people. And so thank you again for having me on the platform, rekindling our relationship. I'm a guy that's originally from Key West, Florida. If you don't know where Key West is at the bottom of the map of the United States, southernmost point of the continental United States, closer to Cuba than it is to Miami. In the middle of the ocean, as the last Florida key that's inhabited. So very unique place. Family immigrated there in the 1800s, mid 1800s. So we've been there for generations. And from there, I went to Purdue University. I played college football at Purdue University in the late 80s. Earned both a bachelor and master's degree there. Met my future wife there, Tracy. We've been married for 31 years, which is incredible to me, for sure, and to her. And we have 4 wonderful young adults. We have a 32-year-old son and then 3 daughters, 30, 27, and 24. And I've just been a really blessed guy to have so much loving family, but such a great friend network around the world. As Paul mentioned, I had the fortune of working internationally for the better part of the last 20 years and made a lot of great friendships. In fact, I'd go as far to say I created an additional and extended family of people in countries all over the world. And it was a sum of the experiences that I had working with them, as well as when I led in different places in the United States, and just having my life manifest, as part of my journey that kind of led me to write this book that we'll talk about later. But that's kind of all about me. My whole thing is strive to be the best I can be, control my own destiny, but also to uplift others around me and to help make everyone else's dreams come true as much as I can. There's so much uncertainty and chaos and feelings of downtroddenness in the world right now. It feels depressing. I think we need people to help uplift others, to help them achieve the agency that they have, to make it come to life, to achieve their vision. And again, that's what the book is all about. So that's kind of where I'm at, and that's what I'm all about.
No, I love that, and I definitely agree. There's so much downtroddenness, like heartbreak in the world right now, and the fact that you are here trying to uplift, upskill, make people be able to achieve their destinies is absolutely incredible. I appreciate you making the time.
Awesome. Awesome. Like I said, great to be here. And I know it's going to be an awesome conversation.
That definitely will be. So I'm curious because you mentioned obviously 3 decades of leadership all over the
Yes.
world. What was kind of like the inspiration for that? Did you always know you wanted to be in a leadership type role? Did you always know you wanted to work with the Fortune 200 companies? If you wanted to talk about what company you've worked with, like, just tell me more about that.
Yeah. It's really interesting. Growing up, I was a big kid. So I stopped growing at 14. So I was like 6'5", like 240 pounds at 14.
At
So, you know,
14?
14. So yeah, literally I could wear the clothes I wore 14 at 57 right now. I mean, I was a big dude. So I had a lot of, sports opportunities. And so I knew, early on, people were always telling me, "Oh, you could be in the NFL, you could play pro ball, and all these things." So that kind of gets into your mind, and you think that's what your goal is. But I remember when I became like a junior in high school, and I knew that that still was a possibility. But I actually wanted to be a business guy. I didn't know what that meant. Growing up in Key West, the big businesses there are really tourism, real estate, and working for the Navy because the Navy base was about a third of the island. And so you kind of all you knew about business was what you saw on television. And you see a guy walking with a briefcase going in the office, stuff like that. You really don't know much about it aside from that. But that was always in the back of my mind. I didn't really know a lot about leadership per se in terms of leading large groups. But then when I played college football, and I talk about this a little bit in the book, um, I had a chance to be a leader and I didn't take advantage of it. What I thought leadership was simply lead by example. I was a student athlete. I was a really good student athlete. I was academic all Big Ten 3 times. Very few people do that. I was an academic all America in 1988. And I played a lot of games, started a lot of games. So I was really the definition of a student athlete. I felt like doing those things, keeping my nose clean, that was kind of a role model. That was good leadership. But what I found out later was we didn't win a lot of games, that I could have done way more, that my teammates looked up to me. They admired me. And if I would have done little things that I didn't do, like, instead of going out to a party with my friends, say, "Hey, you know what, guys, let's go to the football office and let's watch extra film."
Mm,
Instead of sleeping in on Saturday mornings or Sunday mornings when the season was over, round up my friends. Let's go work out. Let's go run. Let's do these little extra things because that's what it takes to be a winner. Is to do those little extra things. I didn't do that. I didn't use the leadership credibility that my teammates gave me. I didn't use it. And I didn't find out till after my career was over how much they admired me and what I could have done. And so once I was done playing and I started, kind of working on a master's degree and thinking about, okay, what I want to do next. And then I started understanding a little bit more what leadership was and how I missed that opportunity. So when I got my first job and I was as an engineer working at a big food plant, and I talked about the way I became the manager was I basically was treating people with respect. I was listening to the union employees, trying to find what I could do to make their jobs better, helping them and listening, anything I could do. And they basically said, "Hey, this guy should be our manager because he's the only one who listens to us." And that's how I got the opportunity. I didn't even wasn't even interviewing. I didn't want to interview. Didn't want the job. I wanted to be an engineer. I loved that job.
mhm,
But one of my friends who was in the union and he worked third shift, he and I used to play basketball together.
mhm,
So I asked him, what should I do? The people are saying I should go for this job and I don't know if I want to. And he said, look, man, you're my friend. And he said, I heard people talking about this. I stayed out of it because I didn't want them to think I was involved since I'm your friend. I didn't want to, influence anybody. He said, but I can tell you, you're a great engineer. Everybody knows that. But right now, with all the problems we have, we need a leader. And everybody sees you as the leader. And whatever you want us to do, we will follow you. So you got to go. He said, if you ask me my opinion, Go interview for that job, get it, and don't look back. That's what changed my mentality from, I can just kind of be a good engineer and be a role model and all that, to you got to take this gift that people have given you and you have to use it to make people's lives better. And so I went got the interview, got the job, and immediately I started seeing positive changes. And it wasn't all because of what I was doing. It was simply because I was inspiring people to want to do better. And since when they did better, I was able to do more to make their lives better. And that's really been the story of my career, starting from there in rural Iowa, going all the way to working across 40 countries, having 10,000 employees who lived in favelas in Brazil, who lived in high rises in China, who lived in India. I mean, Greece, Latin America, the UK, Australia, and the leadership that I employed, which I write about in the book, the model that I employed is in the book, worked no matter what language, no matter what culture, no matter geography, distance issues. And again, I stayed true to myself. I'm the same guy that you would have met back then, except I'm using the leadership gift, and people see me as someone who cares about them and who wants their lives to be better. So anyway, that's how it happened, man. I realized I missed an opportunity, and I said, I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm going to make my destiny happen to bring it back.
Make your destiny happen. Also the name of the book. I see what you did there. I like that.
It's like IncrediPaul.
Exactly. It comes up every now and then. So that's really good. And I think what to draw out of that is the fact that you saw an opportunity earlier on in your football career. You were a really good a model of it, of the accolades you had, but you saw there's an opportunity that you weren't inspiring others, leading them, being intentional with your leadership.
Yes.
Being intentional with your leadership of others. You're doing a good job of leading yourself, but you weren't intentional leading others. And then when the next opportunity came, when you're in rural Iowa, you had an opportunity to do it. Iowa of all places. It's funny you mentioned Iowa.
Nice.
It's actually, I went to college in Iowa. I went to Iowa State.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So
I've
similarities
been
there.
Ames.
In Ames, Iowa. Yeah.
Yep.
With college in Ames, Iowa, between that similarity and then even previous company that we were both at. So it's funny there. But that you're really intentional, that like that seemingly small decision you made led to all of these things after it.
Absolutely. And the other thing that it's important to note is I used what I recognized was a mistake and a loss. I mean, we lost a lot. I got hurt, physically had a lot of injuries at the end of my career. I quit. I talk about in the book that I quit. I lost. I quit. I was injured. I could have given up, but I learned from all those things. I learned about, okay, why did I give up? And what do I need to learn going forward? And why was it actually a good decision? And I write about that in the book. Losing, winning individually is not as fun as winning as a team.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think today, 40 years ago, what I could have done different for our team to win. I don't think about and dwell on, man, I was an academic All-American. That's awesome. No, I think about, I let my teammates down because I didn't do what it took to win. But I used that as fire to keep getting better. So every day I'm trying to get better, help people get better, help them achieve their goals. One of the reasons why I wrote the book. So we got to all learn failure, losses, quitting. Those are all learning opportunities and fuel for us to move forward. We can't see them as losses. We got to see them as a gift. Those were gifts to me, to your point, that I recognized and said, okay, going forward, I'm doing things different. And I still had losses and I still made mistakes, but I quickly said, I know how to learn from this. I know how to use that as fire. That's a gift to me. We gotta get, because in this world right now, every millisecond, something's changing. Something is drastically changing. There's no way that we're going to always be prepared for what's coming tomorrow or the next day or the next minute, next hour. We have to be prepared to adjust and get ourselves get knocked down, get right back up, learn from it, and keep going. So that's the other message I want people to pick up is losses, quitting, failing. That's part of life. Don't stay down, get up, Learn, keep going.
Don't stay down. Get up, learn, and keep going. You just keep dropping
Yes.
bars. I love this. This is really good stuff for everyone tuning in. Just tap into what Donzel is saying. Like I just wanted to draw out because you mentioned your book a couple of times, and I
Yes.
talk to me more about why you decided to write a book. I know you kind of hinted at it towards the beginning of the conversation.
Yeah.
Why you decided to write the book, and who's this book for?
Yeah. So, I decided I had a plan. So
Mhm.
part of the book, a lot of the book is written about my life plan. I wrote this life plan, developed this life plan when I was like 24 years old. And I've been basically executing it ever since, or activating it ever since. So one of the plans I had was to write a book. And so I started taking little notes here and there. And my plan was, once I got to kind of leave corporate life, I'd have the time, start a company, write a book, all those kinds of things. Um, and I'd say that initially, the audience I was thinking about was mid-career people who are kind of looking, how do they get to that next step? I'm a director. How do I get to be an officer? I'm a senior manager. How do I get to be a director? I want to. I'm starting a business, but how do I get this business to grow exponentially? How do I get a team around that level of person? That's what I was thinking about, to help them accelerate their career. But over the last 10 years, I've seen the world change so drastically, to where, again, we talked about it before. It just feels, that there's a lot of heartbreak. There's a lot of just overwhelmingness, chaos, a feeling of a lot of negativity that brings people down. And there's a lot of places that it's seen, whether it's, the ability of the internet to kind of make people want to chase likes, and superficially their feelings get hurt if they don't get enough likes, or, trolls who don't have to have the accountability. They
Yeah.
just send negative messages, and hurt people's feelings that way. So there's all this negative stuff. What happens in the divisive political climate and everything, all these things make people, especially younger people who are just coming up, feel like, what difference is it going to make? I'll never be able to afford a house. I'll never be able to do this. I'll never get out of this college debt. And so I just started saying to myself, you know what? I need to write this book. I didn't write this book that's for everyone. Anyone should be able to read this book. Now, I use a lot of business experiences I had and stories that are certainly around my career, that if you're a career driven person, or if you're a business person, you can take those learnings for sure. But I didn't want to write it for a business person and have someone who's an everyday person have to translate it for them. I want to do the other way. Write it so anyone can understand it, because I want, whether you're a school teacher, a podcaster who's also an engineer part-time, or, or a carpenter, or a stay-at-home parent, whatever your role is, I wanted you to know you are the leader of your life. It doesn't matter what suffix you have after your name, or a prefix before your name, or what your job is. You are the leader of your life, and you can make your destiny happen. And I wrote this book for one person. If there's one person that's feeling down, or feeling stuck, or just feeling like they're not achieving what they want, and they don't have, or maybe they are achieving it, but they're not happy about it, I want that person to read this book and say, wow, now I got it. Now I'm impacted. Now I can transform and make my destiny happen. If I can do that for one person, man, I feel great. That's what the book is all about. Trying to get at least one person out there to read this book, and it transforms their life and allows them to achieve the destiny they want, with the personal well-being and holistic balance in their life that they also deserve.
That's so powerful. And I like how you distilled it to the fact that you wanted it to be accessible to, in just like the layman, like anyone can access it, like not necessarily someone that's in the business sense of the world. Because I think sometimes it's really easy to target those people because they're like, oh, like these, like you were thinking mid-career going to directors, VP,
Yes,
whatever senior level leadership, C-suite. But to really distill it, to understand that this is something that everyone needs, and that you're really
yes,
intentional to open it up in the language that you wrote.
yes. And like I said, it was definitely intentional because of what I had seen over the last 10 years, the conversations I had had. In the book, I talk about, I've had one-on-ones with over 10,000 people. like one-on-one conversations all over the world. I've spent 90% of my career just talking to people.
Mm.
You think about that 10,000 hour rule that Malcolm Gladwell talked about. I mean, I've literally had 60,000 hours worth of one-on-one conversations.
Wow.
So I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying I'm a PhD or anything, but I've got a lot of experience talking to people, and I've seen the trend over the last 10 years in these conversations. And so there's a lot that I could get into, but one key thing that really got my attention is that say over 90% of the people I talk to, or let me put it this way, 10% of those people, 10% could answer this question. Where do you want to be in 20 years? Only 10% really could answer that question.
Mm.
And recognizing how things have, transpired, it's hard to not have an inspiration in your life for your own self if you don't think longer term. If all you're thinking about is making, my rent payment, or geez, I just got to get through this next year, this terrible job, or I got to get through this next 6 months of this boss I don't like, or whatever the issue is. If you don't have a vision of long term for yourself, not for the company or not for but just for yourself, like in 20 years, I want to be here. And I said that if I could do that, I think I could really make a difference in people's lives. And then if I could do that and then give them a roadmap to follow to make it happen, wow, that'd be powerful. That's really what the Destiny Development Delta model does. It helps transform people's leadership to take control of their life, to recognize who their authentic self is, to like their authentic self, no matter the warts and everything. It's good to recognize no one's perfect. Recognize that,
Correct, yeah.
and then again, take that transformed leadership, take control. But now what do you do? So the second part of the model gives you a roadmap on exactly what to do. Here's how you build a life plan from that vision that you want.
Mm.
Here's how you make it clear so that it's clear to you and others. Here's how you engage other people to help you and you help them. It's all, complementary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here's how you activate that plan and continue even when roadblocks come. And here's how you all the time develop yourself, because there are going to be problems. There's going to be changes. The world changes. You're going to have to make adjustments. To do that, you got to keep building your own knowledge, whether it's learning about AI, whether it's learning about blockchain, which, by the way, I'm trying to do. I'm like, hey, I'm at this stage in my life where I could just say, I don't care about that stuff, but I want to keep developing myself.
Mm.
So what do? An hour every morning, I'm reading about blockchain. I'm reading about AI, generative AI. Where's it going? How does it work? How's it going to impact people? How can I think about what the future is going to be? That's that's the model I'm trying to get people to understand. Transform your leadership to take control, and then follow this roadmap to identify what you want, execute your plan, and make it happen. That's what's unique about our model and what we try to show people in this book, that it's not just a pipe dream. It's all here if you put the work in.
It's all here if you put the work in. Like I said, you just keep dropping great one-liners. It's really good.
Oh, man.
That's in hand. So I'm just thinking as you're talking through all this stuff with the book, which everyone listening definitely needs to pick it up. By the time this episode drops, I would have read it. I don't have the book right now, but this episode was recorded a few months in advance, so would have
Yes.
read it. We're able to give more thoughts about it. I'm excited about it. A lot of this podcast is geared towards young professionals in STEM.
Yes.
And as you,
Yes.
as young engineer, and I know you kind of talked through that story with your friend and then the union and the facility that you're at. How can they tap into what you're talking about, making your destiny happen, when they're maybe not even sure what they want for their destiny yet?
Yeah. Someone asked me this the other day, and I really believe that everyone needs to spend more time with themselves. Again, through all the conversations I've had, again, over 10,000 people, 60,000 hours just in one-on-ones. Um, most of us do not take the time to just think. And I'm not talking about meditating. I'm talking about thinking, like taking time to think about, like I said, where do I want to be? What it really excites me. Sometimes people are in a career path that they really didn't choose, that just kind of chose them. And so then they get locked in. And so it's hard for them to think about the future because they don't really like what they're doing, but they don't know how to get out of it. So they have to really think about, okay, what reason did I really want? And then you can figure out a roadmap to get there. But if you never take that time, and I know it's scary, it is scary to think about the future. It's tough. It's hard. I get it. But if you don't, who will? Who's going to think about your future for you? So you have to take that time. And I've got some exercise in the book that help people do that. And it's not going to be perfect the first time, but you have to get to know yourself. You have to be authentic with yourself. And when you're authentic with yourself, then you can build the self-confidence in yourself. And when you have that confidence, or I call assuredness, then you can start thinking about the future and recognize where maybe there's some tough decisions you may have to make, right? So, I mean, I've had to make some tough calls. I made them, though, with confidence because I knew who I am and I knew what I was trading off. I knew that, okay, if I make this call, there's going to be ramifications. And am I willing to deal with that? Yeah, because this is my character. My character is more important than this. And I can live with that. Right. So, but I couldn't have made some calls like that I've had to make in my career. You know, if I didn't spend that time with myself, you know, if I didn't ask myself the tough questions, recognizing where I'm strong, where I'm not, recognizing what I'm willing to do, what I'm not, where I want to be, where I want to go, what I'm willing to sacrifice. So that is the biggest one thing that I think young people can do, whether they're early in their career, mid-career. There's examples I've got of people that I've mentored that were in their 40s and they hadn't done it. And it wasn't until I pushed them and I pushed them in the conversation and they actually changed the trajectory of their careers. Changed it because they finally identified what they truly wanted. Before that, they were just meandering, just meandering.
That's a really good thought. I wholeheartedly agree with that. A lot of us do not take the time to think.
Yeah.
I feel like it's maybe more of a cultural thing. It's fast paced. You're like, do this, do that. Like we get asked a question even in college, what do you want to be when you grow up? We pick something, we choose a major.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, like you said, it might be pressure from friends and family and you choose
Yes.
it. And then
Yes.
you're on this path, you've done all these things, but if you don't take the time to pause, reflect, look deeper into yourself. Like I like how you really differentiate the fact that it's not meditating. It's really talking to yourself and realizing what I'm doing. Do I actually like this? Do I want to do this? What does the future hold? Because sometimes it's happened to me. There's different opportunities that come and people are like, oh, we think
Yes.
you should do this. But if that's not something that's going to help towards your long-term goal, or you haven't
Right.
thought about your long-term goal, you might be doing something that is great for someone else's plan, but not your plan.
Perfectly stated. And like I said, I want people to understand. I remember when I was growing up, there would always be these memes about if you're talking to yourself, there's something wrong with you. And I remember always thinking that seems backwards because I mean, I used when I was younger, I was even little, I would talk to myself all the time. Think about that with it. And to me, that is a great thing to have those conversations with yourself, to really challenge yourself, to get to know yourself. And again, you got to ask yourself, if you don't do it, who will? If you don't know yourself, who really knows you? No one really knows you. Your mom doesn't even know you. You know, no one really knows you. Only you know yourself. Only you know what your real warts are. Only you know what your real ambitions are. So why not become your best friend of yourself? Why not do that and make the plan? And the other thing I like to tell people is, you know, don't let the time control you. You control time because you're busy. And if you're letting time control you, I guarantee you 5 years are going to go by like that. 10 years like that.
Yeah.
You know, and then you look back and you're like, how did I get here? Take control of time. And you do that by start thinking about what you want to do, what it really authentically is your passion, make a plan and start activating it. And then challenge yourself frequently. Am I on the right track or not? If you're not, make adjustments. Don't wait till 2 years later or 5 years later. Make adjustments if you have to. Actively work your plan. Think about it. I mean, that if you're a head coach of a team, let's say you got a team, you're going to wait till the third game if your team just keeps making the same mistakes and losing. No, you're going to make adjustments.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you do that with your own life? So I'm just trying to get people to take agency of themselves. And you do that, get to know yourself, be authentic with yourself, build your confidence, then build a plan. It's better to have a plan and adjust than not have a plan and then be looking around, what am I going to do now?
Yeah. You need a plan to make sure you know where you need to go.
Yeah.
There's I'm trying to give a quote. There's something along the lines of if you don't have any idea where you're going, any path can take you there. Is like
Yes.
what the quote said. Like, I can't remember who says it, but I think it's what you're saying is like really understanding the introspection, the thinking about where you want to go. And I like where you talk about that evaluation piece, like
Yes.
as you're doing different things. Cause yeah, it's one thing to be like, okay, this is where I'm going, this is what I want to do. But sometimes you come across different areas and you're like, maybe I don't want to do that anymore. And I'm wondering, like, just turn it back to you. Cause I know
Yes.
you mentioned earlier, like, I want to come back to this because you mentioned that you made a plan at 24, like for your
Yeah.
life plan, it sounded like. First of
Yeah.
all, how does that happen and how are you able to stick to that? Because I feel like me at 24 was not thinking about like my life plan a little bit, but not to the extent that you were saying. So I'm curious about that. And then how do you, like, what are maybe some, I wouldn't say key, but maybe memorable things that you had to make decisions on as you were progressing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I had some things happen in my life early on that I just had to realize that, I had to step up. I mean, and the main thing was that, my girlfriend I was dating became pregnant. And you have decisions to make. And my decision was, all right, it's time for me to grow up. I got to step up and I gotta make something happen here. I gotta make our life happen. I gotta make it happen. It's on me. That's kind of how I looked at it. And so at that point, I realized there's a lot of different directions I could go, but I said best if I make a plan on what I want to do. And I was thinking about it'd be good if I have a life plan kind of thought through, because then I can review it with my girlfriend and see, look, if we stay together, we get married, this is what I want to do. What do you want to do? Does that match?
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that seems kind of smart. Right? I
Pretty
probably should do
smart.
that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what drove a lot of it was making sure I had a plan to take care of the family, but that we were aligned. You know what I mean? That we were on the same page, and so that's kind of how it started. And so I built the whole thing. And it's so funny to hear her because she read the book and she had forgotten about it, but then she realized, yeah, I remember you reviewing that plan with me, and honestly I mean, I would say the same thing, but it's funny to hear her say it. She said, now that I think about it, everything you laid out in the plan, for the most part, you're doing and you're still doing it.
Wow.
And so now I'd say that one of the biggest decisions I had to make that was different. Early in my life, well, when I first wrote the life plan, I looked all the way to 65. So I was 24 at the time. I just rounded up to 25. And I said, let's look 40 years down the road. Where do I want to be at 65? That's kind of, and then I defined what that looked like and then, work my way back in 5-year increments. That's kind of how I built the plan. Um, so I identified some key things I wanted to be doing. Of course, I wanted to make sure that we had been married for whatever about 50 years, whatever that was going to be at that time, 40 years. That our kids were doing well and all those kind of things. We're financially secure, but I had some career goals. So I wanted to be a C-suite executive by then. I wanted to have started my own company, written a book, and I wanted to be elected to the House of Representatives U.S. and then be elected the Speaker of the House. Like I literally had that those were in my goals. So as time went on, um, it got to well, I'll put it this way: in just under about 10 years ago, there was some changes happening in the United States government in terms of elections, and I felt like I had to do something about that. That was the first big decision, because before that, I didn't really talk about politics at all, ever, 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 never talked about it. And at that point, I said, I have to start saying some things. I have to start representing people who can't speak for themselves within the company and at large within the country. and in my community. And so I started speaking out at work a lot, and really challenging things. And then, so that was a big decision.
Yeah.
And then I knew that me and my wife started organizing in our community to try to get candidates to run who were more focused on people and more focused on doing the right thing and putting leadership over politics and things like that.
Mhm.
And we couldn't get anyone to run for this one. It was actually a state House of Representatives seat. We had a person, but she pulled out at the last moment, and we couldn't find anyone else. And although I'd said on my life plan I wanted to be Speaker of the House, of U.S. House, my plan was to retire, build a company, and then run for something like that. So I had that was going to be like in my 60s or something along those lines. That was what I was thinking. I was never even considering running for House of Representatives in the state. Never thought about that. Certainly not while I was working. Did not want to do that. But it came down to there's nobody else. And then people kept coming to me saying, you know what? You should run. Everyone respects you. Everyone knows that you're all about leadership. And this was a district in which, there's two main parties. One party had won this district like 20 straight years, and they'd won it by like 20 points. I mean, it was, or like 30 points, like a 65-35, something like that.
Wow.
So and most people, I think, thought it was impossible that I could win. But I made the decision. I remember when I finally made the decision and told people at the company, and I knew that there would be implications for that. Now I ran, and I had I think about 20% of the people who had voted the other side changed their vote for me because the turnout was like 93%. I mean, it was like almost
Wow.
100% turnout. Very little new voters. You had to convince people to change their vote to make up ground. So I did that, but I came within 0.5%, 116 votes. So I lost the election. But because I had decided to run and because I was being outspoken, that took me off track to be in the C-suite. Before that, I've been told, hey, you're the next guy. You're gonna be the head of this organization. You'll be basically in the C-suite. After that I got moved off to the side.
Wow.
That decision at least cost me $5 million. At least. I would bet more than that, but at least 5 million. So I made that call. And I knew that there was going to be some ramifications for it. But I decided, okay, yeah, I had this goal of being a C-suite executive. But I also know that I have character and I believe in people and I believe I have a role to play that maybe only I can play. A lot of junior people can't do what I can do. They may not be in the financial situation I am. So I said, I'm willing to step up because it's the right thing to do. And if it means that one of my career goals and pretty significant financial upside, I'm going to lose out on, that's okay. Because my character and my personal well-being is more important. So that's an example of where and that goal was firmly that was one of the number one goals I had in my career part of my life plan. But there's points where, the world changes and you got to decide, what are you going to do? And I had to be, because I had been authentic with myself, because I had the assurance in myself and I knew what I was all about. I'd had those conversations. I had the confidence to step up and say, I'm going to do what I believe is right. Even if it means I'm going to lose out on X, Y, Z, and that's what happened. But I feel great about that decision. I'm glad I made that decision because my wife was my campaign manager. And she and I learned so much together, created so many new friendships. There were like 50 people part of my campaign team.
Wow.
That none of them had done a campaign before. None. All of them were brand new. We all learned together and we ran a professional. I mean, that campaign, we had a lot of feedback from political folks who said our campaign, the quality of it was equivalent to a U.S. representative sort of campaign, even though it was just at the state level. So we did so many great things, made so many friends, learned so many things, but most importantly, we inspired a lot of people who'd been on the sideline before to become vocal and to do something, to run for office, to do other things. So again, because I'd had those conversations with myself, because I was authentic, because I built my own self-assuredness, could make a decision to veer away from my life plan and still stay on track because I did the right thing. Is that the kind of example you were looking for?
Yeah, that's an incredible example. And I think that's something that the audience actually needed to hear because like it's one thing to say like, all right, I have this life plan, I have these goals, I'm working towards it, like everything else like tossed to the side. But you made it very clear, like understanding you yourself, the essence, like what you value, the authenticity, the integrity is what I'm hearing. And like your
Yes,
desire to help people and speak for those who can't speak for themselves, and that
yes,
really superseded everything. So when it came down to it, like money being an option, like this goal being a C-suite being an option, but it's like, no, like this is what I truly stand for. This is what I want. And that's what I'm going to go through no matter what it is.
absolutely. Absolutely. And again, the way that that makes you feel. That's what another thing I just want people to know when you have a plan, but then you make a decision, even if it's aligned with your plan or not, but you make it conscious of the ramifications, but still the confidence in yourself to make that call. Um, you're happy. You can live with the consequences because you know you did what was right for you, and that is so powerful, versus kind of like we talk about meandering. One example I use in my book is there's different people that aren't not pursuing their life goals really in a good way or in a way that they can control. One of them is I call them like a dandelion seed. The dandelion just floats and just whatever the wind takes it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like your example of you don't really have a goal or a target. Any path leads you there. That's the same thing. And sometimes you're going to be super lucky and you end up in a place you want to be. But more times than not, the dandelion seed lands in an area where it's not gonna develop, right? And the same thing with people. More times than not, when you just allow the wind to drift you or whatever you heard from me today. Oh, I'm gonna do that, even though you don't care about. I'm gonna do it, and then tomorrow you hear someone else. Oh, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
If you keep doing that, more times than not, 30 years down the road, you look back and you're not happy. And ultimately, that's what this is all about. It's about happiness. You don't have to be financially well off to be happy. As long as if that was your target, if you're doing what you want to do in life, that's what matters. I got a podcast that I do. It's called the Make Your Destiny Happen Petite Podcast. It's 5 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes, and I take a concept from the book and I bring it to life with a story. And so in the last episode, I talk about my dad and all these episodes, but my dad and I were very different. Like I'm a very driven individual, not so much him, but he was a guy that all he cared about was working, making enough money to take care of his family, retire, and chill. And so for him, life was about relaxing and sitting down in his retirement. And he didn't care how much money he had. He didn't care anything except he could sit in his porch, watch TV, look at the water down below and buy lottery tickets. But he was happy.
Yeah.
He lived. I mean, I asked him. He said, "I'm happy. I got everything I want." So it's all defined on what's good for you, not what I say, not what someone else says, what Paul says. It's what you want. And that's what I want people to grasp. Don't try to follow what everyone else says. Don't follow social media. Spend more time getting to know yourself. Find out what you want, what makes you happy, and then find a way to make a living doing that. That's kind of what I help people to understand.
That's really powerful. To your own self, be true.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's good. Well, we've been going for a while, but I want to make sure.
This is
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, this is really fun. And I'm glad you mentioned your petite podcast because if you didn't mention, I was going to mention because people need to tune into that. But so two things. One, is there anything that we haven't talked about, either yourself or you want to talk to the audience about that you want to talk through? And I also want to make sure you share how people can stay connected with you. But anything we haven't talked about so far that you want to, either a story or lesson as we wrap things up?
We did a really good job, Paul. You did a great job with some great questions and having a great conversation. And so I'd say the thing I'd bring up to people is first of all, check us out or check out my website. It's Destiny Dev, DEV for development, delta.com. But if you type in makeyourdestinyhappen.com, the title of the book, it's going to take you there. If you Google my name, because there's not a lot of Donzel Leggetts in the world, my son and me, it's pretty much going to come up. So you can find us by Googling for me or destinydevdelta.com or Make Your Destiny Happen. The book's out. It's available on Amazon. It's available at Goodreads. It's available at pretty much anywhere you buy hardcover books. The ebook is out as well. I'm in the process of recording the audiobook. Hopefully have it by the end of the year. So anyway, that's kind of the key things I wanted to bring up. We talked about the Petite podcast. It's on Amazon. It's on Apple Podcasts, but it's also video available on our YouTube channel, which we have as well. So I'm sure Paul will have all of this in the show notes. But again, I just want to go back to something I said earlier. There's one thing for you to remember out of this episode. You are the leader of your life, and you can make your destiny happen. Transform your leadership. Whether you want to follow my model or not, get to know yourself. Take control. Recognize you're the leader. You don't need a title after your name. You are the CEO. You are the chief. You are the boss of your life. Don't leave it in the hands of someone else.
Powerful words to close us out. You are the CEO of your life. Thank you so much, Donzel, for making time to be on the show. Really turning to the audience. I know you got something from Donzel in this conversation. I think my biggest takeaway, and I'm sure for a lot of the young professionals, is just because you've made a mistake or you look back on something does not mean that that's the end. You can learn from that. The pathway to success is paved with failures. Continuing to try and do things differently. I've heard it said that if you do the same thing over and over, that's the definition. And well, do the same thing over and over, expecting different results. Einstein said that's the definition of insanity. So tweak it, learn from it, learn from Donzel to make your destiny happen. And you too can be incredible.
Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. We'll see you here next time. And be incredible. Incredible.